To another GitBook webinar. Excited for you all to be here. As always, we'll give it just a few minutes for some people to hop on in right at the start. But in the meantime, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. I think we're also going to have a bit of a smaller webinar today. So also feel free to let me know in the chat if there's anything specific that you'd like to see, obviously around the theme of tonight's webinar, which is going to be building internal docs. And tonight we're going to basically dive into a different use case than what a lot of people are using GitBook. Instead of publishing public docs like the things we have on docs.gitbook.com, but a lot of teams are also using GitBook for publishing internal docs, whether that's like an engineering handbook, process docs, things for HR, just stuff that basically you and your company need to see. And we're going to take a look at a lot of different features that GitBook offers to make that possible and make it really easy to interact and work and build with the rest of your team. I can go ahead and introduce myself as well. If you haven't seen any of our webinars before or haven't seen me before, my name's Addison. I work in our developer relations team at GitBook. You can find me all across the internet, whether it's Twitter, LinkedIn, or GitHub right down there in the bottom. We do a lot of different webinars here at GitBook as well. So make sure you also head to our website, gitbook.com/events, and you can always stay up to date. I'll just shout it out at the beginning and do it at the end as well. But we have another webinar in 2 more weeks with one of our partners, Modern. And I have Mike, one of their senior technical writers, joining me. We're going to actually in 2 weeks dive into using GitBook for CI/CD workflows. Another pretty cool use case, basically see how you can automate different pieces of your documentation workflow through things like GitHub Actions, add things like linters or release notes, etc., based on your maybe like an engineering pipeline. So that's going to be a really fun one. Make sure you register at gitbook.com/events, and we'll see you in 2 more weeks. But again, tonight we're going to be taking a look at internal docs and a lot of different features. We're going to dive into how you can structure your team. We're going to take a look at like the invite flow, the different permissions, roles, things that you might need to know if you are working as an administrator on your team, or if you're invited to a GitBook team, what you need to know about what your role means in the GitBook organization. We're also going to take a look at structuring your knowledge within GitBook. So we'll take a look at things like collections and pages and all the different permissions that you might have set from the team level, but also at a page and kind of collection level as well. We're going to take a look at some of the updated UI. If you joined us at the last webinar, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we went through some of this, but we'll touch on this again and also look at it from more of an internal lens, because again, we're not really going to dive so much into the published or the public side of things. So we'll take a look more into the editor version of the UI. We're going to take a look at a new feature that we've also shipped kind of recently. I'll show you how to use it. We'll dive in. I'm really excited about this one, mainly because I myself also work a lot on our internal documentation, both our product docs and our developer docs at GitBook. And this is a super handy feature, and I've been waiting for this for a long time. So I'm really happy that we were able to ship this. So I want to show you all how to use it as well. If you have any questions also, for those of you who are just joining, feel free to pop them in the chat on any of these topics or either anything related to internal docs. We'll make sure to get to them. I'll cover some of the integrations that we've released more recently and some of the ones we've had around previously, again, specifically for maintaining and managing knowledge for you and your team. Let's take a look at how GitBook AI plays into this. We'll give a sneak preview to sync blocks because this isn't a feature that's out just yet for everyone. And we'll leave, as always, some time at the end for Q&A. So yeah, thank you again, everyone, for joining. If you have to dip out early, we are going to also record this and we post all of them on our YouTube. So we will see you there after. And we'll make sure that we follow up and send this to everyone who's joining. But enough of that. Let's go ahead and hop directly into GitBook and take a look at the first kind of agenda item, which is going to be structuring your team. So I've created a new GitBook organization for this whole webinar. It's pretty empty right now. I do have a few things in here as we go through the webinar that we'll explore, but it's fairly empty right now. I have just a few different spaces. I mean, something that you might already see in your own organization. And I also have like our docs published here. So this might look like a pretty average GitBook organization when you get started and you start adding some content into GitBook. A quick lay of the land so everyone knows what's going on here. In our last webinar, we talked about some of the updates we made to publishing documentation. So we have our I've actually, for this webinar, created a fake company, call it Syncly. It's just a calendar app. I thought it could be kind of fun for the webinar. So we've published some of our docs here, and this is the published documentation. You can see down here, I've organized it, which we'll touch on a little bit later, into the public docs here. But I have also some spaces which are for our internal team. So we have a development space, which might contain things like development processes, a design one, more of like a design process doc, things that you might need to know at this fake company for finance and marketing, etc. We can add a few more spaces as we get going on. But the first thing I want to talk about is structuring our team. And this team doesn't really have any members in it. If I actually go to the settings, you can always access this from the bottom left-hand corner. We can head down to members. This actually only has 4 people. Actually, I'm going to remove my colleague, Valentino. He was helping me out with something in here before, so we can just work on it like this. Basically, I have myself, my own user. I'm the administrator. I created this, but I also have 2 different members who I've invited. And I'm just going to add the plus and then like a name of the role, so you can kind of imagine what they might be doing inside of this instance. So this one is our first engineer. This is our, that should probably say first designer, but we're going to add a few more people. You can always invite people in the upper right-hand corner. You can always also check out our pricing page to see how that affects whether they're like an editor, reader, etc. But I'm going to go ahead and add like another engineer. We'll make this number 2. I'll change some of these in just a minute. I'm also going to add a designer. I'll add the first one again. But you can see as we start to add more people, we can also start to change their roles. And I'll go through all the roles that we have here. So I'm just going to add 2 marketing people, my designer, another designer, and then also another engineer. So we should have like, I think 7 or 8 people in here afterwards. By default, they are going to be added as an editor, but you can see a list of the full roles here. You can add as many admins as you want. As it says here, they can do everything. They can remove people, they can create spaces, they can publish things. But as we go down the list, you'll see that people will have less and less permissions to do various things in GitBook. The creator is a pretty powerful role as well. You can create, publish, merge, and edit. So this is going to be really useful. And if anyone needs to create things like new doc sites, if they need to publish their site for the first time, create new pages, you're going to want to make them the creator so they can have all of this access. The reviewer is someone who, as it says here, can only review and merge change requests. So this is going to be useful for people who don't necessarily need to edit anything, but just need to check off like a final copy. I think this might be pretty useful for people who are maybe in like marketing or even sometimes a designer that might have to work a little bit on the docs, but not like the whole content, and just need to make sure there's no typos, or the style guide might be similar to the one that might be set. An editor is a default role that, again, we give when you invite someone to the first time. This is pretty standard. They can edit pages, submit change requests, and also merge them too. The commenter, as it says here, can only comment and only read. So this also might be pretty useful as a reviewer, but a little bit less permission, so they won't be able to merge anything. They can just leave feedback. And a reader is, as it says here, read-only access. Now, this is really useful as well if you are working with people from outside of your organization, the reader role. I'm going to show you how you can use that in different ways in GitBook, but keep that in mind as you go through adding people, whether it's here in this modal inside of like your organization settings, or if you're adding them outside inside of a space itself, which I will show you later. All of these roles are going to be the same across the GitBook app. So let me go ahead and change the engineer. Editor's fine there. The first designer can also be an editor, but actually our marketing team, I only want them to be, the first one to be a reviewer and the second one to be a, we'll leave that as a commenter. And then we can go ahead and add all these people to our team. Oops. Next, let me click there. But the cool part about this now is now that we have a couple more people, we can add more people if we need to afterwards. As an admin, you're able to change all of the permissions right at the top, but also from this modal, you're also able to see how many teams they're a part of and also how many spaces they have access to. So by default, all of the spaces that we have currently give access to everyone inside of this organization. But keep this in mind too, because we're going to come back to this in just a little bit and see what this looks like after we remove some people and add a few extra people in different ways. So the next thing I want to show us is also how we can use different teams. A lot of you who are using GitBook are working in fairly large organizations, and instead of managing everyone's access at a granular level and by a per user basis, what you can also do is create something called a team. You'll find this section also in the organization settings if you have access to this and are going to be working in it down here. And we can create as many teams as we want. So the first one that I'm going to do is keep it pretty simple and do something like engineering. We'll create the team. By default, the admin will have access to it. You'll see that I'm in there now. You aren't able to, I think if you remove it, you won't be able to add it. So I got to look at that. But what we're going to do right away is add the first engineer and the second engineer. You can search by role as well. So if you want to just do like a reviewer team or something like that, you can go ahead and do that. But we're just going to add our members here. And actually what I want to do is remove myself from this team. I still have access to it, but now when I do things like tag or ask for like a review from someone, it's going to just be inside of the engineering team. The second one is going to be design. Just do this quickly. Oops. We'll add our designers in. And also going to remove from the team. Cool. And let's also just do marketing. Oops, wrong one, this one. And remove myself from this one. And the reason that I want to remove these is you'll see how this works in a little bit, but we can mention and talk and give different permissions based on these roles specifically. And that is very powerful when you're working on a large organization and need to restrict access from certain process stocks to just like a marketing or a design or working on some more internally confidential stuff before you need to give it to the rest of the team. You can use these roles, permissions, and teams very strategically. Last one that I want to do also is do something like leadership. And what I'm going to do for this one is add just the first hires for all of these roles here. So now we actually have kind of like we're going to use this one as like someone who can edit and view everything, and we'll see how that works in just a sec. Okay. Any questions about the members' teams? Hopefully this is pretty straightforward. I'm going to periodically check back in here. Cool. And oops, we're going to check. Okay, awesome. I just want to make sure nothing is coming up from what I'm talking about now. All these other questions we'll get to at the end if I don't cover them through the rest of this here, so don't worry. So the next thing we're going to take a look at is the way to structure the information that you have inside of your GitBook editor and your GitBook instance. So as you see here, again, this is our GitBook editor. If you're working on internal content, you're pretty much just only going to be working inside of here. On the left, just a quick lay of the land again, we have the home. This is going to give you some options to and some getting started kind of materials. If you have created this, you can also dismiss this and it will give you a list of recent spaces to see what's been edited by your team. It just says me in here because no one else has been working in here. Has some information that we change out, so keep an eye on this, but we also have integrations. The doc sites are going to be a list of published things. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time here. And we also have integrations that we can add, which we are going to come back to this. But underneath here, we have the doc sites header, which is very, I mean, it's just basically the same thing as the doc sites section here, but it will give a list of it. And the reason this is kind of cool is because when you have it in a list like this, you can see all of the spaces that are connected to this. You'll also, when you click into the doc site specifically, get a lot of information on this published site specifically. We covered all of this last webinar, so head to our YouTube if you want to cover this a little bit more in depth, because what we're actually really interested in is the way that the spaces underneath here work. So again, development, design, finance, and marketing. And then the public docs, which we're not going to spend so much time in. But what I want to talk about is how we can organize pages within a space. And then we'll also talk about collections and then the permissions, how that works here. So the way that I always recommend teams to get started when they're organizing their content is to start by creating a collection for the things that they want to make. You can always create a collection from this header up here. You can create a new space, but you can also create a new collection from here. You can import content too, but let's go ahead and create a new collection. We're going to call this development, or actually engineering, probably a little bit more fitting. We'll move that above the public docs one. And what I'm going to do right away is move the development one inside of here. What I'm also going to do is add the other ones here. So let's do this. Design. And another collection. And the reason that I'm using collections in this way is because all of these spaces that you have inside of a collection are going to inherit the permissions that you have set at the top level. So for instance, we have this one called engineering. We have a development section in here. I'm going to create a new space, which you can do from the 3 dots here. Let's do something like, we'll just do contributing. And because, let's say, the engineering workflow might have some, actually just, I'll give a better example. Do something like, because this engineering collection has some maybe more private information that we don't need everyone to have, what we can do is take a look at this and add different teams here. So we actually want to give this to just administrators. And we also want to invite the engineering team, which we just created before. Oh, actually, this is the match the roles set inside of here. And engineering can be an administrator in here. So this modal is, excuse me, the access for the company kind of wide one. We can also do this for all of the different ones as well. So I won't go through all of these just yet, or exactly how I did, but as you can kind of see, we can give this to kind of everyone here. What I also might want to do with this one, for instance, when I go to the share, we can also give the leadership team probably access to this, and the leadership team might want to be just like a reader. And I also forgot what to do. I forgot to give this no access here. So basically, what this is saying is everyone in the organization by default won't have access. All of the engineering team will be administrators in here, and all of the leadership team will be readers, and you'll match your highest permission that's set. So because I'm set as a reader here, technically in the leadership team, I'll actually be an administrator in here as well. So we see that. You can also see in here who has access as well. So because because this space is inside of the engineering collection, when you head to the share modal inside of a space that's inside of a collection, you'll be able to again see who has access to just like the engineering collection, and then yourself as well. And if you click into that, you'll also get a detailed view of like admins and the readers. And again, those are set from the collection level. Hopefully that's clear. And that's a pretty good way on how I would recommend to structure your own team as well, and the way that you set up your permissions from there. Company-wide, again, because this is everyone in our organization, we're just going to allow them to inherit it, so they will have access. Now, another thing that I want to share with you and show you how you can invite people specifically to something. Let's say that the marketing team has been working with some partners, and they're working on some extra like blog posts or something. We can create a new space for that. And I'll just show you from scratch in here. So we'll say partner blog post number 1. We'll just keep that as untitled, that's fine. When you share something specifically, you'll be able to see this here. So everyone in our marketing team will have access. We can choose if we don't want them to have access, etc. But I could add someone else and do GitBook.com. But actually, we can do something like Addison partner 1. We'll just change this to keep that. And we can add them as a partner to this as an editor. And let me go back now to the organization settings to show you how that affects your members. You'll see that they should actually only have access to the 1, but that's because they were self-deleted. I think it's because actually by default, we don't have them set in. So what we actually want to do is, in this case, actually what you'd probably want to do is go and make sure that by default, no one has access except admins or maybe like your company. And then when you go to here, I'll just do this so we can see it again in real time. And public docs too. So this will just, again, focusing on this one user. They only have access to this one blog post. These are some things that I was working on before that were deleted. They're in the trash here. They will be deleted after 7 days. Just keep that in mind. But you can see how the member, the partner, only has access to the one space that we want, and they are an editor in that space specifically. You can always head back as well, again, to the members list and definitely get like a good overview of who has access to what. You can click into it and see the permissions that have been set across the app there. Okay, let's go to some of the other updates that we've been working on. Again, let me know if there's any questions on these things specifically. I want to give a quick shout out to some of the UI updates that we've been making, and you can see them in the app. The first one we talked about last week. If you joined our last one, that's the update to the sidebar. Kind of just went through that as well. Where to add new doc sites, where to find published your doc sites overview, the home section, and then a new sidebar and the organization that you can find over here. But the other thing that we've also moved around and updated is actually the space header. So all of the section that you see up here at the top. This is going to be really useful for working on content that might be, well, either in a published site or also within an internal docs folder. So I'll start with the published docs. You can see because this space is published to a doc site, you can see that we can always head back there in the breadcrumbs. We can also head to the published link in the upper right or upper left corner here. We can, of course, hop around here as usual. Also, I'm not sure if a lot of people know about this, but you can always hide the table of contents. I find that really useful if you want to do like a little bit more of like a focused mode. A lot of these things are still kind of up in the space overview. So we have the configure for GitHub and GitLab, and then we have the share modal that we were just looking at, and a bunch of other options up inside of here. But you'll also find things like the site settings, which will bring you to the doc site here, and then you'll be able to add things like a social preview and turn on or off different settings specific to the published side of your site, because this is going to be just like the content side of it. Exports, version history, your file viewer, add integrations, insights, and then your kind of actionable actions here. So if you are looking for anything, because some of these had icons up here, just make sure you check this little more menu icon here, because you'll find them most likely inside of here. Title icon has stayed the same, and then we've highlighted the change request buttons for editing and then viewing your change requests as well, which hasn't changed at all, so you'll find that here. You'll also find the broken links icon and also comments that are inside of this space as well, which are also in the header still. So again, all the stuff is still there. We've just moved it around to make it a little bit easier to find the more important things that you might be using on a day-to-day basis, but again, we have the rest are still in that menu up there. Let's dive into broken links and see how this feature works. So if you aren't aware of the broken links feature that we'd shipped just a little bit ago, it basically allows you to find broken links inside of your spaces and fix them really easily. I want to make a shout out right at the beginning, though. This feature only will detect broken links internally. So AKA links that are also linking to somewhere else in GitBook. So for instance, inside of this space, we can see how this works. I have a lot of different links spread out inside of here. Let me actually show you by editing the change request here. And a lot of these are linking to this website page. So if I click there, it's going to bring us to this page. And for instance, and I have this actually kind of scattered throughout the docs here. If I delete this page here, I want to show you what happens. You do get a check at the beginning that will say, hey, this will basically break these links inside of the getting started and 2 of them in the welcome. So that's even like a helpful warning at the top. But if we merge this, you'll be able to see the broken links that are found and identified up there in the upper right. And this is a good way if you are working across maybe different change requests, because I've seen some some pretty involved workflows where there's a lot of open change requests and a lot of things are being merged in and out, which does get a lot of teams into situations where links might be broken. You'll always then be able to head up here in the upper right and fix them right off the bat. So the first one that I want to mention is Extra. I was just doing this before the webinar. I basically had a page called Extra that's now broken inside of the welcome and getting started. And if we take a look here, the welcome one is now broken down here, and it brought me to it, which was this one. If we click it, it does nothing. And the next one is on getting started. It's the same thing. I think it was this one. And the other thing that we have is now the website ones, the ones that we just moved. So the getting started, the welcome, and the welcome, or excuse me, the websites that we just removed the page from. We can also just fix those inside of a new change request, very similar to what I just demoed, but now we can edit them and fix them. So we head back here, and we want to do this space. If we click getting started, we'll be brought to this one. And if we have hover it says broken link, we'll just delete that. And instead, let's just go to gitbook.com. Oops. Or we'll just actually go to the community page instead. It'll be fine. Just do this fast. Or in this one, we actually can just remove them. We actually probably don't need to replace them all. And then we'll merge this. And now that that's merged, we head back to the docs. We shouldn't have any more broken links, and they're all good to go. So this again is a pretty useful feature. Make sure you check this out. This is available as well for just our Pro and Plus plans. Keep that in mind, but you are able to see and get a taste of maybe even how many broken links that you might have in your docs already. The next couple things that I want to show are actually some integrations that are really, really cool and probably pretty useful for a lot of people who are working in internal docs. So let's start by creating a new page that we can work on. So if you haven't seen this before, we have a ton of different integrations that you can use in GitBook. We also have a full platform. You can build new ones, but I'm going to explore some of the ones that we have already built. So these are ones that have been built on top of our platform. We have a lot of different analytics ones. Again, some of these are a little bit more geared towards public documentation, but things like Git sync are really useful if, again, you're using like CI/CD workflows and want to tap into that, which we'll explore in 2 weeks. The interactive ones are very useful if you're working on displaying information that you might have in different tools. A lot of support widgets, again, probably a little bit more for published stuff, and visitor authentication if you are working across like protected docs and you need a sign-on before the docs are published and viewed. But we have a ton of pre-installed and ready to use integrations as well. They're all supported by iframely, and it basically allows you to display a rich embed. There's a ton of different ones that are supported out of the box. You can also, if you want to see, basically just paste it inside of GitBook and check, or you can check it here to see if it's working or what's wrong with the link that you're trying to post. So check that out if you are having issues with it, or reach out to us. But I want to show you how this might look. So for what I've done is prepared the first one, which is a Miro board, and this is just one that's connected out of the box, and it's so simple to basically add this to a GitBook site. You can just copy the URL inside of here. Let me just name it so we know what we're working on. And we can go ahead and just paste that in. And just like that, we have basically our mural board inside of here. We can interact with it. And because this is public and published, anyone who has access to it will be able to see it. This is one thing that I do want to shout out as well, because this does trip some people up sometimes. Make sure, or I should rather say, if you're having issues with some of the embedded experiences, like they're not showing or maybe just displaying as a link, triple check to make sure that the thing that you're trying to embed is public and other people can access it. So things like private YouTube videos or things that might require sign-on, those aren't going to be embedded automatically because you need to have the user sign in first. And in some cases, the embedded kind of experience might have that built into it, but in a lot of cases it doesn't. So just check that out if you're having issues with it as well. Another cool one that I like as well is if your engineering team is working with like GitLab or GitHub, we show a lot of embedded things like out of the box as well. So the first one that I want to show is the gists. So if you have a public gist, this is already supported out of the box. And again, the same thing, you can go ahead and just paste it in. And you're going to get a nice block here that's formatted and be able to kind of view it and interact with it here. So you can go ahead and basically add this directly to your docs. Anytime that this is updated as well, this is also going to update inside of here as well. So you can kind of just have one source and keep it there. But if you are working with more internal stuff that you don't want to publish necessarily to that you don't want to publish publicly, what you can also do is basically use a integration that we have called GitHub Files. And what this allows you to do is embed actual files within a repository that don't live in just like a public gist like this. So this is a integrations platform that we have. And for our purposes, what I want to do is actually embed just a few lines of this here. So I'm going to do is highlight this configurations, and you can highlight really whatever lines that you want to embed in any file. And as you copy this and paste it over to the page and we hit paste, it's not going to work. But the reason is because we haven't installed the integration. And what's cool and why I wanted to show this is because if you do post this, and this happens with any of our integrations that try to unfurl or embed something in the page, it'll give a little note saying, hey, actually we tried, it didn't work, but we have an integration for it. And we can install it right from this message here. Oops, that was the wrong one. Let me go back here. So what I want to do is, well, install this first. And after we do that, we do need to enable it inside of a space. So let's do this in the integrations. And I think it should be good to go. We just have to authorize this. And this is what else I wanted to mention about this. This basically, oops, let me do this really quickly as well. Basically, what I want to mention is because this is going to unfurl GitHub files that might be a part of a private organization or a private repository, this will require the person who's adding the integration to sign in, because the files will be unfurled and displayed inside of the space as if it was that user, basically. And I'll show you how this works basically as well. So just keep that in mind as well. You will need access to these files as well. And actually, oh, it already worked already. So before, where it was previously just showing this here, now we're able to read the file itself that we have pasted here. I'm just realizing that this line didn't unfurl correctly. And that might be a big bug with the integration on our side, but I'll take a look at that after this webinar. But hopefully that's clear with like the installation procedure, how you get that going, how you authorize it, and then add it to the space you want to work in. Cool. The last couple of things that I want to talk about before we move into a Q&A is how you can also use GitBook AI, which has been a pretty big part of our feature set with a number of different areas in our products. But I want to focus on the lens of using it from an internal docs perspective. If you haven't seen it or haven't used it before, in the upper left-hand corner of the actual editor of GitBook, you have this this search box, and this allows you to search for a lot of different things. Basically, you can search through as a semantic search. So if we looked for something like, well, we can just do it right here, I guess. We can look for finance. You'll see the spaces and the different things that we have inside of here. But what we can also do is ask it different questions that might be related to all of these spaces that we have inside of here. So I can ask for something like, what tools do we use in finance? And doesn't have a semantic search for it, but we can ask GitBook AI to analyze it. And it will take a look through all of the information and give us a big summary of this. And it will also give you the source it was found in. So I, again, added all of these things as references earlier, and that's why it found it. But if we click inside of there, you'll be taken to the page and you can read a little bit more in depth, because this is just a summary of the page and the information that it found here. It also is pretty cool because it will give us follow-up questions as well, which we can ask. And it will give us some information. And actually, let's see. Oh, it does give us information about this right here. So basically found all this and gave it here. Yeah, and again, keep asking, posting some questions in here, because we'll move to QA just after this. But there is just one more feature I want to kind of go through and just kind of let you know, again, kind of what we're working on, because I think this is a pretty important feature for a lot of teams that are working on internal docs. But if this feature isn't out just yet, so hang tight, because we are still shipping this one. But if we want to ever add more information and reusable information, we're introducing a new feature called synced blocks, and I'll show you how it works. So this one is going to be called company note, and we can say something like, if you need access to more tools, please reach out to Fernando in HR. This message can be really as long as you need it to be, but we have a lot of different tools across like the different engineering and design and finance pages that I have inside of here. So I want to add this note inside of here. And to do that, what you can do is highlight any block that you have set here. And inside of the options, we're able to turn this into a synced block. And what that will do is generate this. You can also edit it, and you can also rename it. So if what I'm going to do is rename this right away and call this access tools. And from there, we're able to then go to a lot of different pages. So the finance, and what we'll do is edit in the change request. Oh, actually, I didn't have this published, so I didn't need to do that, but will still work anyway. And in a new paragraph, you'll see we can add it right from here. Also in the command menu, we'll add it as well. So if you want to add a sync block, you can add your access tools, add a new one right from scratch. So let's add that one in here. And then let's also just a moment, let this merge. We also have a lot of tools inside of here. I think in this case, we can just add it here as well. If we want to edit that at any point, we can edit the instance that we have set here. This again is going to, as it says here, publish and sync the changes across. But let's say we need to ask someone else. You can say Fernando or Sarah and publish these changes. And those are going to be then found across all the different places that have been using it. A couple things of note here and how this will probably work. Again, we're still building this out, so nothing is completely final just yet. But this will work for published things as well. So keep that in mind if you use a synced block inside of published content. Editing it in one place may publish this into a published thing. So it's probably a little bit, I think, at this point better for different types of roles, or again, kind of thinking about who should have access to editing certain things. But also at any point, if you want to, you can also detach an instance as well, and it will just turn it back into a regular block. So it won't be able to be edited anymore. So just a couple things to keep in mind. And if you have any feedback for us, head to our community. Let us know what you think, because we're still building it and would love to hear what you think, how we can build it a little bit better for you as well. So let us know. But I think with that, we covered most of the stuff inside of here. So let's hop into a little bit of Q&A and see what we can chat about.